I'm still waiting for anybody from the MHA group who has joined can unmute their microphones and speak up.
Yes, sir.
Any one of you from the MHA
Yes,
group
sir.
who have joined. Yes.
Yes, sir. I'm Varisha Khatun.
Okay, Varisha, like welcome to the MBA group that we have already designed for the marketing management. Uh,
Thank you, sir.
so, Varisha, can you tell me how many of your MHA students are currently enrolled in the group?
About 14 students, sir.
Okay, excellent. So we have about, yes, Mahin Mazhar, I see your hands raised. You can speak up. You'd like to speak something?
No, sir. Actually, I was saying we are all enrolled. So by raising the hand, I was just letting you know.
I did not get you.
Sir, actually, by raising the hand, I was letting you know that we all, like those who are raising the hands, are enrolled in the class.
No, no, that's perfectly fine. I can actually have a feel of all of you who are actually attending the session. That's not a problem. Actually, I wanted to speak out to some MHA students to get a confirmation as to what exactly is the present status per se, so that I can design a strategy to address the issues within the group as to how to take care of that specific group set which exactly has rejoined late. And that's the reason why I wanted to speak out to somebody from the MHA group within the marketing group. So I was speaking to Varisha. Varisha, are you there? Yes, I can see
Yes,
you.
yes.
Yeah. So tell me, Varisha, can you just do me a small favor?
Yes, sir. Of course.
The favor that I want from you is that if you can connect to your group members, that is all the 14 or 18 or 20 of them, whoever would be joining, I
So
would
the
like
link is
you,
already in the group,
yes, the link is there. Uh,
and also the students are following that group also.
Excellent. But what we understand, but there would be a certain amount of confusion that might be there. So I intend to address that because there would be so many questions that would be coming in, which exactly is because of people joining in late. Of course, they would be having different type of queries in their mind. So if there is any sort of an issue, that you can actually always participate in that WhatsApp group that we have created, and you can speak
Yes,
out
sir.
your concerns. We intend to be addressing your concerns. Also, I would like to make it very clear at the outset that uh, we have shared with you a soft copy of the book, the textbook that is marketing management, which we are basically using for our class. This is by Philip Kotler, Kevin Lane. We exactly had the 15th edition, which is the global one, which I have already posted on the group. Of course, there were certain uh, concerns from the students who joined in late as to how exactly we intend to be taking care of the remaining portion which they have missed. So I would be working out a strategy as to how to address that part as well, so that there is nothing that would be missed off. As it is, we have done about 6 to 7 classes per se only, so you have missed not much. But whatever you have missed, we'll revisit that and we'll take care that all of you are compensated for the loss that you have shared because of the technical issues that was there towards your attendance. Okay, if there is any sort of a specific query, you are free to write it down in the WhatsApp group, or you can speak up over here in this platform.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, sir. Of
Okay.
course, I will.
So yeah, please. Thank you very much. So I would like if you can speak out for your group. It will be good, like one person speaking rather than many of them speaking simultaneously. They'll create a chaos because we, as it is, we got a about got a capacity for something like around 180 odd students in this session per se. Of course, we have less number of people who have joined in, but the total strength that we have is 60 plus 60, 120 odd students. So let us get underway with our class, which exactly we had been doing. In the last week, we discussed about the aspects related to the consumer markets. Very quick recap of what we have already covered. We did look into the consumer characteristics which actually influence the buying behavior. Some psychological processes, they actually influence a consumer response to the different type of marketing programs which exactly are put forth. How do consumers actually end up making a purchase decision now? Definitely, we never think about it because at the end of the day, we all are consumers and we all end up making number of purchases from morning to evening. And our interaction, whether it's a brick and mortar or a purchase, so okay, we have somebody who's just joined. Anyway, so coming back to the learning objectives, we actually end up making a purchase decision, but really we really have to work out as to how do we make a purchase decision, what actually goes into our mind, or what exactly is the process that we actually endure in order to make a purchase decision. So we'll try to break it up into different components and look into the sequential list of elements that actually interact in order to make a purchase decision. We also shall be looking at how they deliberately consumers, they move from one brand to the other or stray away, or sometimes do deviate from a rational decision process, and why do they go about doing it. So starting with the first question, that is, what actually influences a consumer behavior? Now, per se, how do actually individuals, group or organizations, they select, they use, they buy or discard the services? That's basically something that we intend to be looking at. And these are towards the experience for satisfying the different needs and wants. Of course, a very important impact happens to be the cultural, social, and personal factors on the basis of which people make a purchase decision, and this impacts their behavior for getting the different type of products and services that they exactly are trying to buy towards their satisfaction for their needs and wants. So these are some of the influencers which exactly are impacting the consumers' buying behavior, which happen to be cultural, social, personal factors. So now cultural factors can be further subcategorized into subculture and social classes, which exactly are subsets of culture. And then social factors are basically different type of reference group that we belong to. Then we are different type of cliques, that is different type of orientation or the aspect of a larger subgroup that we all are a part of, a family. And family again is subcategorized into family of procreation and family of generation. And then we've got something called as role and status that we actually perform in the different type of frame of reference. So we perform different roles and different type of status. So that also impacts as a social factor, which helps us make certain type of behavioral decisions towards making any sort of a purchase. Coming down to the reference groups, now we are members of different type of groups. Definitely certain of some of them are primary membership that we have, and then there are certain secondary members that we have. Then we were member of certain aspirational groups. We aspire, like all of you are right now aspiring to take up managerial jobs at the end of this program, and you want to make a career in management. So that's basically a thought of an aspirational group that you be a part of, as well as certain people who have not yet completed or who exactly were not selected for their MBA. There they are the aspirational group that they belong to is to be selected into management. Of course, basically there can be a third aspirational group, that is people who want to be selected into medicine. There could be a fourth aspirational group, people who want to be selected into civil services. So you've got different type of aspirational groups that you exactly are part of. There are also certain type of disassociative groups that you basically are part of. That is, you don't want to be associated with certain type of groups. Like for example, people who are anarchists, or people who are mavericks, or people who exactly are creating a lot of hue and cry, or people who exactly are troubling others. You don't want to be associated with that type of a group, or you want to be disassociated with that sort of an orientation. Also, you basically happen to be opinion leaders. Many times you make your opinion for different type of products and goods that are purchased. So you actually end up as influencers. Like your family members, especially your elders, might like to consult you when they are purchasing any sort of an electronic device or a good which involves some sort of skills that you already possess. Okay? Or if you have purchased a product and you really are very satisfied with the product, you become a reference group or an opinion leader for people who exactly are going to be buying this sort of a product or service per se. Simply, so you can post your comments and people review your comments. Even websites would like you to post different type of comments, so that other you can act as a reference group or as an opinion leader for others who would like to purchase that sort of a product, because they want to take your reviews for uh, casting the uh, behavior of people who exactly are not very decisive at this stage to purchase any sort of a group. So people exactly are members of different type of reference groups also, which exactly are there. Now we would be looking at something called as family. Now family is also a very important influencer, and we've got two types of orientation when it comes to family. One of them is called as the family of orientation versus family of procreation. That is, either you exactly are at a stage where you are dependent on your parents, and you have a family which exactly consists of your siblings, your parents, and your uh, maternal and paternal family, and so on and so forth. So that's basically one type of a family. There could be a second type of a family, like for example, where you would be a prime family member, where basically you're going to have your family, that is a family of procreation, where you would be having your spouse, you'll be having your children, where basically you exactly have an extended family to your earlier family of orientation. So technically family also plays a very important role when you decide as a influencer for making sort of a purchase behavior of a consumer. Now what influences consumer behavior? So there are certain personal factors as well, like for example age or stage in the life cycle. What exactly is your stage? Are you at a nascent stage? Are you at a child stage, or are you at a teenager stage, or are you at a parent stage? That also plays a very important role in your life cycle. The occupation and economic circumstances. So technically, how exactly economically independent you are, or how economically dependent you are, also the type of an occupation that you currently are uh, and are undergoing. Like for example, are you a student? Are you an earner? Are you a worker, or are you at a different stage of economic dependence or independence? That also makes an important aspect towards your economic circumstances. So definitely there are certain type of decisions that's going to impact your economic orientation per se, and that impacts the consumer buying behavior. So effectively, you are a consumer, and a customer and a consumer are different from each other. You must understand this important aspect, that a customer may buy a product by imparting a value for that product in terms of monetary terms, but a consumer is a person who actually consumes the product. So technically, many a times a customer may not be the consumer. Let's say, for example, if your parent buys a product for you, if your parents buy clothes for you basically are wearing those clothes, and that's basically makes you a consumer of those clothes. But your parents happen to be the customer of those clothes. So effectively, we are looking at something what is called not customer behavior, but we're looking at consumer behavior, because we want to see the reaction of a person who actually consumes the products and services. So technically, of course, many a times a customer and consumer are one and the same, but then a customer exactly would be purchasing a product, something like, let's say, for example, somebody is gifting you something. So effectively, you are a consumer of that product or a service, but the person who's actually purchased that product in terms of sharing a value for that product in terms of monetary sense, that person happens to be a customer. So effectively, this exactly is towards the certain personal factors, also personality and life concepts or lifestyle values. Actually, they also influence different type of consumer behavior. Now, there are certain key psychological processes which exactly we discussed in our earlier session also, wherein we try to see that motivation, memory, perception, learning, and emotions play an important aspect towards impacting you psychologically to make a specific type of a purchase decision. And then we looked into the model of consumer behavior, where now you might say that does it happen one by one? It basically happens in a sequential order. We have broken it up into a sequential format so that we can look into it in each groups. We can cluster the different type of subcomponents which actually operate within that variable, and we intend to be studying it in group format, but real time everything happens simultaneously. So effectively, you can never try to segregate it into different compartments, but for the purpose of understanding it, we need to be breaking it up into different type of segments and the different aspects within those segments. So let us start with the first one, which is called the marketing stimuli. Now, marketing stimuli, basically these are different type of triggers. They exactly are there, which exactly are triggering our intention or awareness or attention for different type of symptoms or signals which exactly are there for the different type of products and services. So we intend to be looking at the different type of stimulus, like for example, products and services, stimulus about products and services, a stimulus about price. Like recently, you had these big billion day sale or the Amazon festival offer, or Amazon end of season sale or the Republic Day sale. So these basically are triggering that way you're going to have a lot of discounts which are going to come into play. So pricing also happens to be an important aspect, because if you're looking at the Indian consumer psyche per se, we are very price conscious and value conscious consumers. So effectively, price also happens to be an important trigger. Then the next marketing mix, which we have already discussed, happens to be distribution. Are you going to purchase it on a brick and mortar setup, or are you going to purchase it on a market space that is a pure click setup? That's also defining how you exactly enter. That also acts as a trigger. So the goods are going to be available to you next day. Amazon Prime, if you look at the type of a option that exactly has been characterized by this sort of a service. Also the communication, how exactly you are approached. Are you trying to be approached by the different type of meta medias that is available, from the different type of billboards, advertisement, the news channels, the different type of social channels that you exactly have, or from the advertisements which exactly are posted in the different type of um, sensory environment that you exactly live in. So effectively, these are the different type of marketing stimuli which basically focuses on the marketing mix, that is product, place, price, promotion per se. But then we're going to look into services, then we're going to talk about the service mixes as well. So then there are other type of stimuli which we've talked about, which happens to be triggers like economic, technological, political, and cultural. That also plays an important role. Once these stimuli impact us, we basically, it impacts our psychological state and our characteristics. So this psychological state, I've already said that these are also impacting how exactly we are motivated, what exactly is a perception, how exactly does it impact our memory, and what exactly we have actually learned about these different type of products and services. Now you must understand at this point of time that we need to have these products and services because we understand them as solutions to the different type of problems that we have. So first we have different type of needs, and these needs are actually addressed by different type of solution in terms of products and services. So that exactly is the reason why we are looking for the different type of solutions in terms of our uh, the the needs and wants that we have, they're going to be addressed by these products and services, and information about these products and services in terms of the different type of marketing mixes, which along with other stimuli are impacting our psychology towards addressing our needs and wants. So effectively, also since consumers are different, we need they're addressing it at different levels. One is they're addressing us at our cultural level. Second is the second dimension could be probably our social level, how we actually live in a society. It's impacting us at that level. At the third level, at our personal level, probably every individual is a unique identity, and that exactly has a unique personality. So effectively, how does it appeal to us personally? So effectively, this stimuli is impacting us in these different dimensions, and then we intend to be looking at this entire aspect. So effectively, we intend to be looking at the entire thing, and just I'm really sorry for this small disconnect. There was a call from the chairperson, so I had to engage that call. I'm really sorry for disconnecting. I hope we have rejoined our session. Can you hear me loud and clear? Hello?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
I need
sir.
a
Yes,
voice
sir.
from
Yes,
you.
sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
your voice is
Sir.
audible.
Thank you. Thank you very
Yes, sir,
much.
we can. Yes, sir.
We were basically discussing the model of consumer behavior, and herein we looked into the aspects of the different type of stimuli which was impacting our psychology and us in our characteristics, addressing at the different level of our cognitive characteristics, and this is going to help us make a buying decision. Now, when we are trying to do a buying decision, we do it in multiple stages. So what we need to be doing is that we first start with our problem recognition. Do we really identify what exactly is the problem we're trying to solve in terms of our needs and wants? Once we have identified our problem, then we will be looking at something called as information search. We intend to be searching for solution to solve our problems. After that, we would be once we've got a number of solutions, we will try to evaluate the alternatives. Okay, these are A, B, C, D, E, five solutions that we have, which is going to solve our problem probably. So let us try to evaluate these five in terms of the cost and benefit as to which exactly would be a higher cost and or a higher benefit that these options actually give us. So evaluation of these alternatives, and then we decide to zero in on a specific type of a purchase decision. Of these five, I intend to probably purchase either of them. So I have zeroed in two product alternatives out of the five which exactly are there. And then I intend to be looking at post purchase decision. What am I going to do after I purchase? So I would like to have a feedback from people who have already purchased this product. That is, are they satisfied? What exactly has been their experience? What do they have to say about it? What exactly are their commitment towards the different type of solution that this product has provided for the problem that they had, which was a similar of a problem related to me. So effectively, my buying decision is going to be based on this sequential pattern of logical process that starts with the buying decision process. That is problem recognition, information search, evaluation of alternatives, purchase decision, and post-purchase behavior. So once effectively that has happened, then we would be looking at two other important aspects, that is purchase decision. Now, basically, we are not yet into purchases. So we intend to be going into the purchase decision. That is, now we have decided that, okay, this is going to be the product that's going to solve my problem of the set of alternatives that I exactly have zeroed down. Then within this product, this is going to be the brand that exactly I intend to be choosing because of so many different factors which we will be discussing in near future. That is, this is the brand that I intend to be looking at, and then finally we intend to be doing something called as a choice from where I'm going to purchase this brand. Am I going to purchase it online or I'm going to purchase it offline? And what are the benefits of purchasing online versus offline, and so on and so forth? Is it going to be purchased from the wholesaler, retailer, or distributor, or the friendly neighborhood shopkeeper that I have next to my home? That's basically going to be serving, or is it going to be a loyal shop that exactly, or is it going to be a shopping mall which exactly I visit for my shoppertainment? So effectively, I decide where exactly I intend to be making the choice, that is the dealer choice. Then purchasing amount, what exactly is the size of the investment that I'm going to make this purchase? And then purchase timing. When am I going to purchase? That's also a very important aspect. Now, let me tell you that in the Indian context, timing also plays a very important role when you want to make a purchase. In my last class, I told you that definitely, if you're looking at the Indian psyche per se, purchase psyche, you'll be surprised to find that most of the purchases happen during these Diwali times, or these Diwali, Dashera. These are the different times when most of the purchases people are doing. Why exactly do you think most of the people are purchasing at this specific point of time? Anybody like to add in? Of course, it's very considered very shubh. It is considered very auspicious when you exactly have purchases at this point of time. Any guesses? Anybody would like to chip in? Why most of the purchases happen during this time? Why we have these different type of festival offers at this specific point of time?
So
Yes.
probably because the discounts that the different companies are providing us, and saying that we have a culture of buying new things on these festivals. So the
Okay.
discounts are given according to that. So these are strategies made by these companies, I guess.
Okay. So Anam has given a very good perspective that these exactly are the different type of strategic alternatives which are being produced by companies, that this is considered very auspicious. So that is why most of the people are buying it at this point of time. So they give you a lot of discounts at this point of time. But this is actually a symptom. Okay, I want to know why. Why exactly does it happen during Diwali? Because unless you think, you cannot market. This is something where you need to use your creativity. I want you all to trigger all your creativity. Let's see who can come to the rational idea as to why during Diwali only, or Dasera, or during these festivities, the price, most of the offers are created, or this exactly thing happens. Let's
Sir, because
look
employees
out.
are given bonuses at that time.
Okay, why? I'll be putting a question why. So you have got to think. Yes. Why are bonuses given around that time? Very
So
interesting
that they can
orientation.
celebrate festival
They
in a
can
better
celebrate
way.
festival. Very right. Liza says that you're given factors of product like consumption, so that you can actually consume. You buy products, so that's why bonus is given. Why is bonus given at that point of time?
Sir, to increase the
Yes, include buying, increase buying. Okay, but why?
so that they can be motivated.
Yes, of
Yes,
course,
sir.
definitely.
It will act as a
100%. Yes,
motivating factor, sir.
Farhad?
Sir, it will act as a motivating factor for the seller.
Again,
So they
you're,
will
you're,
try
you're
to
hitting at the
increase.
symptoms. I want the cause. You're giving the effect. I want the cause.
So because it would boost economic consumption, and festivals are the perfect time when people have their
So,
need to
so,
buy
so,
products and all.
Sayantan, you said that if that's the name that you have put on the uh, chat box,
Shayantan
registering
madam.
yourself. Am I correctly pronouncing your name, Shayantan?
That's Shayantan.
Huh?
Shayantan.
Shayantan. So it should be with an
Yes.
H. You have put Sayantan. So Shayantan should be the actual spelling, so I can pronounce it effectively, because I should not mispronounce anybody's name. Shayantan, you're very true. But you said timing. Why is timing important? Now, I think rather than spending
So,
more time,
so
yes.
Sir,
is it the superstition behind it? The
No,
timing?
no, no. There's no
yes, sir, we
superstition.
can
There's
say that Indians are more
Yes, sir.
associated, like connected with
Yes,
the
sir.
festivals. So,
no, no, no. There's no superstition. There's a real interesting logic. I'll give it to you. Yes. Anybody else would like
Sir,
to? Because I've been in marketing, so
Sir,
I understand. There are many things that I've learned on the market, not on my books. So I understand certain things which exactly are there in the pulse of the market, and I'll explain you why. And you'll be surprised. It's not
So, so
I can
maybe
say
it comes
yes.
from the values.
Anybody else would like to
Sir,
add in?
yes, sir. May I?
Yeah. Go ahead.
So maybe this thing has came from the values India inherited from the ancient
Uh-huh.
times that
No,
they
no.
have given.
You see, values also come from a background. Values also doesn't just drop in from the sky. There is a reason for everything. Even if it's a value also has a orientation and a reason to be there.
sir,
Only then it'll make value. Otherwise, it'll be no value. Okay.
Yes, sir.
sir,
So let me break it out to you, and you will appreciate how. Yes. Anybody else would like to come in?
sir. Maybe
yes,
because the
sir.
sellers
Because
want to
Yes,
sell their
sir.
stock of the last year, so they give discount so that the goods are sold and their stock is finished.
Okay. But why at that specific point of time?
Sir,
so
because
because
people are
religion and culture plays an important role in Indian society. Religious
Come again?
activities and religious so religion and religious activities play
Okay.
an important
Religion,
role in
but
Indian society.
religion actually is there, but religion doesn't happen in vacuum. Religion and religious belief and other things are there, but they are also not illogical. Everything has a reason, and the reason is more important. Basically, it's not a political discourse that you can use religion to get votes, but because that is something weird. But when it comes to business, business does not operate on whims and fancies and all these political drama. It operates on real reasons and real logical reasons, because the business cannot operate on all these whims and fancies. Now, I'll give you the real story behind it. You see, it comes from why festivals are there at that specific point of time, why sales are there at that specific point of time. You see, India is an agricultural economy. So there is a lot of harvesting that happens, because all the crops that have been stored, generally they are harvested at that point of time. When crops are harvested, there is a lot of economic activity that happens. Farmers, they're bringing in produce, then they're selling it to the market. So trucks start moving. Agricultural implements start moving. Tractors start moving. People are taking the goods to the mandi. There's a lot of economic activity that happens around that point of time. So when you are bringing in the produce, the results of the produce to your home, you exactly are celebrating. All the festivals are outputs of these agricultural growth that happens at that point of time. So effectively, there is a lot of movement of goods and services which is happening in the economy, and that exactly is the reason you start celebrating. Then you see, when you have money, you have different type of social activities and events in your family. There's a lot of marriages and all which exactly are done. Lot of festivals and celebrations are happening around that time. You've got certain festivals, like for example, you've got Onam, you've got Bihu, you've got Dasera, all of them clustered around that point of time in the post harvest season. Okay, so that exactly is the reason where people want to buy goods and services. They want to purchase their goods. I'll be telling you certain things like when I was working with this brand called Shell engine oils. So my sales, the whole year sales, I used to be looking at sales around Diwali time because my entire year sales, I would be trying to break up the entire quotas, the annual quotas, the 4 quarters. I will try to see that at the fourth quarter, I will try to maximize so that I can pass it around the entire year. So people, big truckers who didn't use to purchase products or engine oils around that point of time, they would purchase it in bulk. And I used to give them different type of bulk discounts at that point of time because I understand this is my selling season. So effectively, everything has a reason behind it. It's not like a superstition, or it is not just religious values, or it is not that, but basically it is associated with how the factors of economics actually operate in the market. So this is the reason why timing is a very important aspect. Purchase timing plays a very important role over there. Now, payment methods is again another important crucial perspective when it comes to how exactly you intend to be making the payment. Are you going to make it in credit? Are you going to make it on cash? Are you going to break it up into equated monthly installments? Are you going to take a loan in order to make the payment? So all these things also impact your effective purchase decision per se. I will be reading out a very interesting case study at this point of time because of the discussion that we recently had related to it. And this is towards something that we exactly are discussing right now, that is rural consumer behavior. How does a rural consumer actually behave? Because rural consumer is an untapped market, which recently is currently being tapped by these big business conglomerates. They are basically moving to the rural customers because they were left, because they were only thinking of the urban customers. But today, products and markets and everything's are uh, customizing their offerings in order for this sort of a segment, which exactly offers a great amount of uh, benefit and a great composition to the total net economic indicator of the firm. Now, rural consumers, they exhibit certain behavior which is unique to rural setting, which makes it important for marketers to understand rural consumers through the appropriate research. Rural consumers, for example, lend to lead a more relaxed lifestyle as compared to urban counterparts, and they exhibit low urgency. So rural customers, they're not very urgently in need of things. They're very relaxed. They're not all hyped up or hyper responsive to as their urban counterpart. The consumers in rural market tend to have a greater trust also in products and services endorsed by government and its agencies. So if a government or an its agency is actually endorsing a sort of a brand, rural consumers will actually have a greater trust to it because they exactly have a orientation that they are more trusting the entire system rather than fly by night operators. They tend to be more brand loyals, as habit once formed is difficult to change. They're not very whimsical about their purchase behavior or habits, and they would not change it at the drop of a hat, but rather they would like to stick to their habits because they're very loyal, rural consumers. And they tend to take pride in getting a good deal rather than paying premium prices for products and services. So, like we might like to buy certain goods because it impacts our type of mindset or our persona or our esteem needs. But rural consumers, they take a pride in getting a good deal. So if they get a good deal, they're very happy about it, and they would not like to be throwing their money just like that because they're very value conscious with their type of behavior and the goods that they exactly are going to be spending. Cultural values and norms also have a very strong influence in determining the buying and consumption behavior in rural areas. So they're very culturally conscious, and they're also very influenced by certain things. I'll give you a very interesting example of a product out here. Like for example, if you've looked into tractors, uh, if you looked into tractors, now tractors are products for rural products which exactly are there for taking care of farm. They're basically farm equipments and farm implements can be associated with tractors, and they used for agri business and agri markets or agri activities. So if you're looking for purchasing a tractor, what is the color of the tractor generally rural a consumer is going to purchase? Have you seen what exactly are the color of tractors which exactly are there? A very interesting
The red,
observation that
The
I've
red,
had. Yes?
the red or black or blue. So
No,
mostly it
no.
is red or
Can you
blue in color.
come again once again? Have you seen a black color tractor, Pratika?
The red or blue. The red or blue color, not black. I said
Red
black,
or
blue color,
blue?
blue color. Yes,
Blue
sir.
or red? Okay.
Yes,
Probably
sir.
shades of red. Why red?
Sir, I think it's like people can see from a long distance that it is in red color is visible from a long distance. So I think that
Why
is
do
the
they need to
reason.
see a tractor from a long distance in a
Because of
field?
the length of the wavelength.
No, no, no. No need of a high wavelength because infrared, a low wavelength, you really don't need a low wavelength to have a large distance visibility. No, you're not driving it in a super fast highway that you need to look at it from a distance. That's not the reason. Give me the correct reason.
so I
So
think it is
maybe rural
again about
people
the
like
rural consumer behavior. So they are like very loyal.
Loyal to
The
what?
product they have been using from a very long time, they believe on those things.
What? Come again?
So I'm saying, sir, I think it is because of their consumer, the rural consumer behavior. Like they are very loyal. The product they have been seeing they have been using from a very long time. They believe and buy those things.
That's
So
perfectly
should I make
fine
a
what
point?
you've said, but that does not answer my question. Yes, Pratika.
So, so just to increase the safety, people for the people
Arey
who are
nahi,
working the farm.
it's not about safety. Color does not give you any level of safety. What are you talking? Color does not give you any level of safety. I'm talking about color because color is a very important aspect. अच्छा
Sir,
मेरे को एक
because
बात बताइए. When you go to a wedding, especially girls,
Red color
what
defines
color
celebration.
of dress
yes,
would you
ma'am.
like to be putting on, especially for a wedding? What
So
color
red
So
color.
dress?
mostly
Would
red.
you wear a black color
So red
dress?
color. No,
Okay,
sir,
red
red
color.
color.
Why red? Why not black?
Sir, because it
It's
is
like
considered
a color
auspicious.
inauspiciousness.
Yes, you got it right. Red color is very auspicious. Red is associated with prosperity. Red is considered very shubh. So people would like to be for any sort of a event. अगर कहीं पे if there is any sort of a sad event, if there is any sort of mourning which is there, if there's some sort of a family which is God forbid has some sort of a bad luck and there's some sort of a death in the family. Have you seen anybody wearing a red color?
Not at all, sir.
Not at all. Why? Because red is considered for a different level of occasion, and black and white are considered for different level of association. So your mindset is that when you are going for any sort of an activity in a field, because that should be very shubh, that should be very good, that should be very it's something very pious. It's something you want the crops to grow, bring in wealth, and this actually has to be very associated with a prosperity. The signals of prosperous behavior and color must be there. So a black tractor is not going to sell, however good the product is. So you will basically be finding a blue color tractor, a red color tractor, and even a green color tractor. If you're looking at a product called John Deere, there's a brand called John Deere. John Deere, it's made, it's a brand from UK. They make only green color tractors. John Deere does not make any other color tractors, but it just makes green color tractors because it feels that it is eco-friendly color more in sync with the greenery that exactly it creates. So technically, these exactly are important behavioral dimensions which exactly are there. So cultural values and norms have a strong influence in determining the buying consumer of behavior in rural areas. There are restrictions on villages. There are restrictions on type of foods or type of intoxicant that can be consumed in villages. Similarly, women occupy a more traditional place in rural society. Therefore, a Western wear or a modern cloth acceptable in an urban market have poor acceptability in rural market. You will not find women folk in rural areas wearing a jeans simply because that is not acceptable. So definitely, if you're going to pitch that product in that zone, it's not going to actually sell because that's not acceptable in that sort of a culture per se. The norm regarding the role of women and their behavior in public has an implication for developing advertisements targeted at rural audience. However, rural youth, because of their exposure, tend to be more open to new ideas. In uh, in increased migration, because people have been migrating from rural to the urban settings looking for different type of livelihood and so on. That exactly has increased. The penetration of telephones and other means of communication are gradually transforming the rural consumers as their behavior is being greatly influenced by the urban consumption pattern. So today, with the influx of internet and the technology to the last mile connect, that is the rural consumers per se, they are exposed to the same content which exactly is there for the urban counterpart by these internet penetration into the rural settings, and that exactly is slowly changing their behavioral orientation for the different type of cultural transformation, which is exactly in sync with the their urban counterparts. But rural communities tend to be closer. They tend to have a more of a cohesive sort of a nature, and then the urban communities, which basic societies, which basically are segregated in terms of castes and communities. That's a very important reference point when it comes to village folks. For urbans, it is not very important whether what caste you are, what community you belong to. They're basically very open to all these things, but this is very closely associated. This cohesiveness in terms of the subcultural groups are very important when it comes to the rural consumer per se. The joint family structure is there, still exists in villages, although there has been a discernible a trend towards nuclear families. So they are also migrating towards a concept of nuclear families. Although still in today's village, you'll find joint families where basically they exactly have a patriarchal land along which all the family members are uh, connected, and they exactly have joint families. As a result, rural areas tend to exhibit more of something which is called as collective consumption behavior. So collective consumption behavior is something which is going to be very different from the urban and the rural divide which is there. Most products are purchased for consumption of everyone in the family. So if they want to buy something, they would buy it in bulk and not for individuals. Also, the head of the institution or the family has a significant role in decision making, and sometimes in consultation with other family members who considered to be important and individuals who are going to be making decisions. The caste system still prevails strongly in many rural areas in India and also affects the behavior of consumers, especially in terms of the role and status of the individuals within the family. In rural areas, also the occupation and the income of consumers derive consumption from to a large degree. So what exactly is the consumption that is directly proportional to the amount of income that exactly is there for that specific type of a consumer. Low income level and adequate credit facility also affects the consumption pattern. Now, for an urban consumer, we've got lots of options. Like, for example, even if you don't have the money, you can have the goods. You can pay it on EMIs. You can purchase the good on credit. But that is not exactly how a rural consumer will think and behave. Unless and until he has money, he is not going to purchase because he wants to do a cash down business. So he does not believe in credit because he does not want it to land into the credit cycle. So whether it is from an individual or from a corporate. So effectively, this exactly the banking is a big challenge for rural consumers. So you got to have a different type of a design when it comes to banking strategy for rural type of a consumer, and that exactly is a very important aspect in marketing per se for different type of products and services and industry orientation as well. Now, also the another important factor that affects the demand pattern in rural area is the instability of income of farmers. Now, many a times they don't have a stable income simply because it is again dependent on the crop, it is dependent upon the harvest, it is dependent upon the season, it is dependent upon the rainfall, because many a times you don't have rainfall, or rain happens at intervals or and they're not always connected by perennial water source, or sometimes there even drought which is there, which is linked to the seasonality of agricultural production as well as the unpredictability of the harvest. Sometimes the harvest can be infected by disease, and that is going to actually impact the income of the rural market. Similarly, landless laborers and wage earners, they earn a remuneration on a day-to-day basis. So they need to purchase in very small quantities the products, one product at a time, because mostly for 1 or 2 days consumption. They will not buy it in bulk because they do not have so much amount of money. They're working on a day-to-day basis and they are compensated on a day-to-day basis. They're hand-to-mouth people, so they will make a very small type of purchase. Rural consumers also differ in the meaning they attach to the different objects and activities. That's the mindset which exactly is very different from the urban consumers. As compared to their urban counterpart, rural consumers interpret color, symbol, and social activities differently. I give you the example of the tractor purchase and the different type of color and the significance that it has. Rural consumers show a preference for bold, primary colors. Red connotes happiness and auspiciousness, and green signifies prosperity. So effectively, their mindset and their orientation is an output of the cultural backdrop that they happen to be from. Ownership of a large tractor, a large house, pakka house, a telephone, and other high-value consumer durables, and education of children in cities are considered as status symbols for the rural consumers. Rural consumers also exhibit certain specific pattern in 5 stages of buying decision process. The community way of rural area plays a vital role during the problem recognition and the search stage. So if the sarpanch says that this is the problem and this is the solution, they will consider it very, very strongly in their purchase decision, because this is influenced by somebody who exactly is revered by them. Okay, even if their needs are internally triggered, they are shaped by interaction with the reference group. The Chopal is a very important place for taking joint decisions, discussing important issues. Even their problems are solved at local level. You have the panchayat, which is solving the local problems exactly if it arises. Many in the community, mainly in the community, the problem recognition might result from the interaction, compare the contrast with the community members. So if as a marketeer you want to enter into a village and start promoting your product, the best way to do is promote it to the sarpanch, promote it to the members of the panchayat, and they basically will propagate your idea, because they then the idea will have a greater acceptability among the rural consumers rather than you going and talking it out, because they are figureheads and they would listen to their figureheads. They've got a larger influencing capacity and power than you, which are outsider, and basically you might not be even known, or you they don't know you, so they would never trust you. Low penetration of mass media and dominant presence of a community influence the problem recognition stage, that is word of mouth. Word of mouth publicity is a very important aspect, because if somebody is happy, he'll see to it that your products actually sell. Now, publicity efforts by different government agencies and non-government organizations working in rural area play a crucial role in creating awareness at the problem recognition stage. Like for example, one important role is heart and fair. They've got weekly fairs, which exactly, or weekly heart, or weekly market, which is organized at the village level. where a couple of more villages also join in with their produces, and it's a sort of a temporary market which exactly is created for exchanging the goods and services as per their needs. So fairs, harts, exhibition, and road shows are important triggers of information. So if you really want to do something, do a stage play in rural area, do a small nukkad natak out there, and then it is going to have a greater impact than doing any sort of a commercial selling activity, or a promotional campaign or something of that sort. Visit to nearby towns and feedback from existing owners or other media or information search. Opinion leaders are people who perceive the knowledgeable public uh, of an important role as an information providers and advisors, as the perceived risk of buying tends to be higher in rural consumers and exhibits greater involvement in the purchase decision. So they feel that they exactly have little amount of money, and if they make a wrong decision, it is going to be very, very serious. So they are more involved in the search process when it comes to making a purchase decision, because they don't want to have a aspect where they're going to make a wrong purchase decision. So they are very careful in their search behavior. Family members, relatives, and friends are consulted before making a purchase decision of high value product. They want to buy a high value product. They're going to seek members' input from a large number of people who exactly will be giving their suggestions, which is going to reinforce their buying decision. Since the reach of electronic media and other mass advertisement in rural areas, dependence on information, advice, and mass media and information technology is presently increasing. Rural consumers are becoming more informed about products and services, and their dependence on traditional reference group is gradually declining. Now, this was actually a case study which I decided to refer about rural consumer behavior. It was by R.V. Rajan, a profile of rural consumers. This was presented in the Hindu business line in February 10th. So effectively, what I'm basically trying to this was in February 10th, 2020, basically where basically they decided to have this sort of a case study. This was an article in Hindu which I decided to pick it up in line with our discussion towards consumers and consumer behavior and consumer markets and the context of rural consumers per se. So effectively, that must have given you an idea as to what exactly is the model of consumer behavior. Of course, we looked into the key psychological processes. That happens to be motivation, happens to be one of them. I have already discussed about the Maslow's theory of need, that first you try to go in for the physiological needs, and then you go into the self-actualization needs at the higher end. So effectively, first roti, kapda, and makan, that basically happens to be the first level of requirement for anybody, and then you would go to the next level of need, that is safety and precaution, and then sense of belongingness, love, self-esteem, recognition, and self-actualization need. So effectively, that's from the bottom of the pyramid that you climb to the top when it comes to different type of products and services that you intend to be purchasing. Also, we discussed about certain type of psychological processes. As I said, orange has an orientation, that whether it's a color, or whether it's a fruit, or whether it's a drink. So effectively, a process by which we select, organize, and interpret information inputs to create a meaningful picture of the world. That basically is all about perception. A perception again can be subclassified into selective attention, selective distortion, selective retention, and subliminal perception. I have given you some sort of a background about it, which you can also read in the context that exactly has been shared with you. Then there are certain key psychological processes which we talked about. Learning happens to be one of them, because learning effectively changes in our behavior arising from the different type of experiences that we've had. Then there are certain type of drives and cues which exactly is there. And then there is something called as generalization and discrimination that happens on the context of learning. There are certain other aspects, psychological aspects like emotions. Now, different type of emotions can be linked to different type of brands. I did talk about the different type of emotional connects that we have. Excuse me, just sorry. क्या है भैया ये तो है जनरल कैटेगरी में, ये इनका क्यों नहीं यहाँ डाला? ये क्या है और क्या ये कैसे इसको यस करवाइए 1 2 3 मिशन ठीक हो गया थैंक यू sorry for the small interjection there was some official work which had to be done I'm really sorry for this interjection coming back to the key psychological processes emotion happens to be an important aspect now different type of emotions can be linked to different type of brands um, if you connect different type of brands you'll be transformed to different type of emotional states that you have if you can connect to the different type of associations that you've had uh, if you uh, if you would like to look at different type of perfumes that you really like they basically transform you to different emotional state that you have and that exactly was something that we discussed in one session where we talked about a brand called as Axe and how exactly it transforms to the different type of emotional appeals, which exactly is rooted. Also, coming back to more a more simpler orientation, a smell happens to be a very important aspect, especially if you have a feeling of nostalgia when you have a smell of the uniform. It transforms you to your childhood. The stage where you used to go to your school, the smell of the uniform uh, it just takes you back to that sort of a time frame. Also, if you look at the smell of the rain, which is falling on the mud, gives you that aroma of the mud, the smell of the mud, that basically transforms you to a different type of an orientation. And so effectively, it impacts the emotional content of an individual. So we are to be looking at a certain type of music. If you heard this music in your childhood or this sort of a song in your childhood, it transforms you to that type of a time frame. Effectively, all these are actually psychological processes which exactly are hardwired in our brain with associating it with different type of events. And if we can trigger it, we exactly are triggering the key psychological processes where emotions is a very important aspect and an emotional appeal can really have an impact. Also, memory, short-term versus long-term memory, associated network memory, brand association, memory encoding, and memory retrieval are very vital aspects. Then buying decision process. Uh, Generally, a buying decision process, a consumer passes through 5 stages. First happens to be the problem recognition. Then, as I said, information evaluation, information search, then evaluation of the alternatives, purchase decision, and post-purchase behavior. Now, coming down to the buying decision process, the buyer recognizes a problem or need triggered by an external or an internal stimuli. So this basically is not in isolation, but there is a trigger which exactly is created, and this trigger actually whether it is happening from within the buyer or from outside. The within the buyer could be a need that exactly is an unmet need or a problem that exactly is there with him, or something which exactly others have said that this is your need, please solve it by this sort of a situation, and that exactly has triggered the problem recognition. So we somebody has either uh, told us that we have a problem or we understand that we have a problem. Unless the problem is there, we are never going to look for a solution. So the first step of a buying decision need could be the trigger. And this trigger is actually in the form of an internal or an external stimuli. Like, for example, it can be an internal need like hunger. Right now you all must be feeling hungry, you would like to have your lunch because and the teacher is taking the class, it's about 1:47, and you would like to actually be having some nice lunch that you want because breakfast has happened in the morning, or and you would like to have lunch, and you're hungry. So effectively that exactly you're trying to see what exactly is it that you're going to be having for lunch, you're looking forward to lunch, and that is exactly one of the needs that exactly is actually triggered from within. Or there could be something like, for example, you're looking forward to enjoying a party in the evening, yeah, that basically is something that is really cued you to some sort of an activity. So you develop different type of orientation for this sort of an stimuli that exactly has been triggered, and you that has created a need which exactly is called as the problem recognition stage. Then we are going to be coming to the next level, which is called as information search. Now, information search could be from different sources. It could be personal sources, it could be commercial sources, it could be public sources, or it could be experiential sources. These are the different type of sources on the basis of which we try to get information in line with the stimuli which exactly has triggered the reason to create a buying a decision on the basis of a problem that exactly is there. Then we exactly have different set of involved in decision making. Let me remind those students who attended the last session that we had last week. We did discuss all these things, but I have repeated this entire session basically because we've got a new group that exactly has joined in. That is the HA group, that is the hospital administration group. They have started their journey into the MBA program from today. And for their benefit, because they would be feeling lost if we started from here in our session from today. So I had to recapitulate everything that we have covered, especially in this aspect towards analyzing the consumer market. And then I will be doing a stopgap arrangement for them separately so that you all will not. And then we'll be continuing with the same aspect towards consumer goods and business goods or industrial goods. And then we shall be proceeding henceforth from here per se. So with this, we will come to an end of this session. It's about 1:50. I believe I think I've overstepped around 5 minutes. Somebody who can be my timekeeper can tell me what exactly was the timeline for this session.
So
When were
145.
we supposed to wind up?
145, sir.
I'm sorry if we overstepped 5 minutes. But
145.
yeah,
No
in fact,
problem, sir. No problem. Not at all a problem.
okay. Thank you. That's
Thank you,
very
sir.
kind of you to say
No,
not a
sir.
problem. But then, of course, there would be certain problem to some people who might be cursing me because I have overstepped the time. But thank you very much for being a
Thank you, sir.
very
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
accommodating
Thank you, sir.
group of
Thank you.
students.
Thank you so much,
I
sir.
really
Thank you, sir.
enjoy teaching all the more this subject with this group simply because there's no other option. But I would definitely would have liked to have interact this session on a real-time basis rather than just an online session because then there would have been a lot of interactions and cases and interesting discussions, which I
Sir,
miss at
inshallah, making dua for the same. Inshallah.
inshallah. So let's look forward to meeting you soon. But for now, we will be interacting online only. All the best. Thank you very much for the session.
Thank you so much,
Attendance
sir.
will be auto downloaded, so
Thank you,
don't worry
sir.
about that. We've got that covered by technology. So I will not be spending time with attendance. That's about it for the day. Thank you very much. You all can take leave.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.